There, Janet Fritz here for Galaxy Girl Creations. Welcome to my channel and welcome to Gwen's first YouTube birthday hop. So today we are celebrating Gwen and her 1 year anniversary on YouTube, and she asked us, rather than to just simply scrap lift her, she asked us to use 5 things that she commonly puts on her layouts. And the items are a single photo. She typically goes with a 4x4. I left mine as a 4x6. I tried it as a 4x4, but it cut off too much of the detail that I wanted to leave in the photo. Her other items were cut files, patterned paper, clusters, and stitching. And so those were no problem. I have a cut file of a shock that I created, well, I purchased on Etsy, but I cut it with my silhouette. And then I'm using this background paper from kjpargeter, and I've added the stitching. I did it off camera, so you don't see me actually add the stitching, but there is stitching around the circles on those timepieces and gears, and then all the way around the outside of the layout. And then, so all I have left is the patterned paper, which is the background, and then I need to add some clusters. And so I'm going to do that after I get my title down. My title is going to be a little bit of a work in progress. So I start out with totally shocking experience because I am documenting my husband and my son went to pick up another car, and they were towing it on a tow dolly behind my husband's truck, and one of the shocks on my husband's truck let loose. It hit the ground and it hit the undercarriage of the truck, I think the axle, and then it ended up hitting the frame of the truck, and it was like both of them were a little bit like shocked at what happened, obviously, but they didn't know what was causing the problem because the car they were towing was a brand new car. Well, it wasn't a new car, it was a new used car, and they were using a dolly that was rented. So they weren't sure if something happened with the dolly or if it was something with the car that they picked up or what. So they got out and they looked, and my son didn't see anything wrong with the car or the dolly, and he hopped back in the truck, and my husband got out and looked, and then they realized it was actually the shock on the truck that let loose. And so there they were on the side of the highway trying to fix this shock, and really the only way they could do it was this really inexpensive tie down that I had put in my husband's Christmas stocking. So he was very thankful for it at the time. So my title is starting out to be Totally Shocking Experience. And I am using some thickers. The ones on the right hand side of the screen there, those are somewhat new to me. I think they are from one of the newer collections. I'm not sure which collection, but maybe one of the newer, like Maggie Holmes or whatever collections. And then the other ones, they are not thicker brand. They are some other brand. There's no label or no any tag or anything on them, but they are this weird font, and I don't usually use that font except for on these types of layouts, ones that are usually documenting my husband or my son. Rarely do I ever use these on my daughter's pages unless they are maybe like Halloween or something, just because they're kind of different. They're not like elegant. They're not normal. I don't know. They just have that kind of boyish feel to them, in my opinion, anyway. So that's normally what I use them on. So I am going to be changing the title a little bit as we go through the video here, just because I find some things that I want to use with it. But we'll cover that a little bit later. So then I end up pulling out this 6.5, I believe it's 6.5 by 6.5 inch paper pad. kjpargeter does not do 6x6. I think it's 6.5 by 6.5. But anyway, I pull out one of their paper pads, and I start flipping through it and finding some different things that I think will work, like these brackets. And I'm going to layer them up with these other border strips. And I like how that's looking. I will be adding some black distress ink to the edges because everything kind of blends in a little bit too much as of right now. And then I go through my box of earth toned ephemera, which has a lot of the gears from this particular collection, so I think that will work well. Now, shocks don't have gears in them, but you know, it's all car related, so we'll go with it. And anyway, so I start pulling those kind of things out just to kind of see what I want to work with. I do find one that says Mr. Fix It on it, and so I decide I'm going to use that because obviously they had to fix this shock on the side of the road. Now, the truck does have some new shocks on it now at this point, but you know, at the time, that's what they had to do to limp home, and and so I do definitely want to use that, which pulls gray into the mixture of the embellishments. Now I'm kind of pairing up the grays and that coppery orangey color, so I know that each of my clusters is going to need both of those colors in it. And I do really like this one that I'm working with right now, and I end up moving it. It's not going to stay in that upper right hand corner, but I really like that one because it has the gears on it and it has all of the colors in it, so I didn't feel like I needed to add an additional piece over the top like I do in the other two areas where that bracket piece is, one is gray and one is that copper color, and I needed to add the alternate color. Um, that one at the top has both colors, so that kind of was really nice. And I do kind of want this piece that's off to the right of the photograph to be a little bit at an angle, just because everything else is kind of at angles. Nothing is really straight on this layout, and that's okay, because I feel like it's supposed to be that way on this layout. I do also like this little piece that I am inking up right now. It has a wrench on it and a hammer. Now I'm not using, they don't use hammers typically, well, typically they don't use hammers on cars, but every once in a while, you know, they have to knock something loose. But the wrench I thought was perfect. So I do just use some white paper that is from my stack of paper that I use to map my photos with, and that's just paper that I get at Hobby Lobby. It's 6.5 by 4.5 inches, and it comes in a stack, and I use it in black and in white to map photos. And so I just pulled a piece of that to back this gear, um, and I stamped it with my label stamps from Stamp Market to create the lines in it, because that's where my journaling is going to primarily go. And then as I was going through that box, I found this ampersand, and I wanted to use that, so I had to figure out a way to add that in. I just thought it was a really nice stack of title, so I really liked the stack look in this particular case. A lot of times I don't do this kind of title work, but I thought this was kind of fun using different fonts and different um, elements in it. And I don't use ampersands very often, but this one worked really well because it has that kind of grungy, kind of like the metal that is the like corrugated metal look to it. So my title is now, and it was a totally shocking experience. And so that's what my title is going to stay. But I did have to go ahead and use some of the smaller thickers that I was out of A's, so I had to use an upside down V for one of the A's, and that works out. Um, it doesn't really bother me in this particular case. Sometimes I think it might, but for this type of a layout, it doesn't bother me at all. So I decided to pop that Mr. Fix-It up onto some foam tape, and it's going to be surrounded by that gear so that it has both colors again, and it's kind of framed, and I like the way that that looks. And I'm just going to add some gears to the top right hand corner of the photograph, along with that little tag that has the hammer and the gear, or the hammer and the wrench. And then I'm going to add a little bit of twine to the top of that so that it has the hole filled and looks, you know, nice and pretty, even though this is not really a pretty layout. So I decided those white pieces were a little bit too stark white, so I took my black Distress ink applicator and my walnut stain applicator, and I just kind of ran them lightly over the top. So it's not giving a lot of color to it, but it is kind of grunging it up just a tiny bit so they're not stark white. I am popping that journaling spot up onto some foam tape just to give an added dimension to that upper left hand corner, and the gear that is below where it says Mr. Fix-It, that will also be popped up onto some foam tape. Now I have this other little tiny gear that's going to go at the top of the photo in that other cluster, and I am adding some white behind that as well, so I can add just a tiny bit more journaling to that area. and I think it's coming together just fine. And while I work on that, let me just point out that this is the 1 year anniversary of Gwen's channel. And so I would highly recommend you go and check out what she's doing over on her channel. We are all celebrating her today. I have a list of people playing along in my description box down below, and you can check out the way that they used the 5 elements that she tends to put on most of her layouts. I'm really excited to go and see what everybody else created because we had a lot of leeway. And some people are definitely scraplifting her, but they are also using those same 5 elements. But I think it's a lot of fun, and I'm really excited to see how everybody else, uh, or what everyone else decided to do with those 5 elements. So I'm wondering if people actually did some hand stitching, or um, what kind of cut files they might have used. So go and check that out, and leave them a little bit of love as well. So as I glue everything down, I'm just using my Nuvo Deluxe adhesive to adhere all of these foam pieces onto my layout. I did trim off the side of that large gear up at the top just so that it looks like it's coming in from the edge, and I like how that's looking. I'm going to finish up my journaling, and I think that's pretty much going to do it. If you have any questions or comments, you can go ahead and leave those down below. I will get back to you as quickly as possible. I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Again, check out all of the other people that are playing along in this hop. If you're not already subscribed to my channel, I would love for you to subscribe and hit the like button down below. And if you're not subscribed to Gwen's channel, I highly recommend you subscribe to her channel. She's got great content out there. Thanks so much for watching again. I will see you guys again very soon. Bye-bye.